Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Welcome to the online class of contemporary taxation. Today we are conducting our 23rd lecture and I am your instructor Saba Naqvi. लास्ट क्लास में हमने चेंज इन कंट्रोल ऑफ एंटिटी तक पढ़ा था. अब हम यहाँ से इसे कंटिन्यू करते हैं. चेंज इन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ AOP. With the duration of courses of tax year, a change occurred in the constitution of AOP liability of filing the return on the behalf of AOP for the tax year shall be on the AOP as constructed at the time of filing of such return, but the income of the AOP shall be proportionated among the member of who entitled to receive it, and where the tax assessed on a member cannot be recovered from it, it shall be recovered from the AOP as constituted at the time of filing the return. Discontinuance of business or dissolution of an AOP. Where any business and professions carried on by an AOP has been discontinued, on whereas AOP is dissolved, provisions of ordinance shall be so far as may be applied as if no such discontinuance dissolution has taken place. Every person who was at the time of such discontinuance or dissolution a member of such AOP and the legal representative of such person who is decreased shall be jointly and severely liable for the amount of tax payable by the AOP. Next is the succession of business otherwise than on death. Succession means janishini, where a person carrying on a business or profession has been succeeded in any tax year by any other person otherwise than the death of predecessor, and the successor continues to carry on the business or profession. The predecessor shall be liable to pay tax in the respect of income of the tax year in which the succession took place up to the date of succession, and the tax year or year preceding that year. And B point is the successor shall be liable to pay tax in the respect of the income of such tax year after the date of succession. And the second point is the where the and the predecessor cannot be found. The tax liability is respect of the tax year in which the successor took place up to the date of succession, and the tax year and the tax preceding that the year shall be that of the successor in like manner and the same extent as it would have been that the predecessor who shall be entitled to recover it from the predecessor. Taxation of the permanent establishment in the Pakistan of non-resident person. Following of the principle shall be applied to determine the taxable business income of a permanent establishment in the Pakistan by non-resident person, NRP. The profit of permanent establishment shall be computed on the basis that it is distinct and separate person engaged in the same or similar activities under the same and similar condition and dealing wholly independent with the NRP non-resident person of which it is the permanent establishment. B point is there shall be allowed as deduction any expense incurred for the purpose of the business activities of the permanent establishment include executive and administrative expense so occur whether in the Pakistan or elsewhere. No deduction shall be occur in the computing the tax business income of permanent establishment in Pakistan of NRP of the tax year for the head office expenditure and exceed for the amount as bear to the turnover of the permanent establishment in Pakistan the same proportion as the non-resident total head office expenditure bear to be the worldwide turnover. हेड ऑफिस एक्सपेंडिचर के हेड ऑफिस का एक्सपेंडिचर का क्या मतलब होता है एनी एग्जीक्यूटिव और जनरल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एक्सपेंडिचर अकर बाय द एनआरपी नॉन रेजिडेंट पर्सन आउटसाइड पाकिस्तान फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ बिजनेस ऑफ पाकिस्तान permanent establishment for the person include any rent local rent and tax excluding any foreign income tax current repairs or insurance against risks of damage, destruction outside Pakistan, salary and travelling paid of an employee employed by the head office outside of Pakistan, and the C point is the other expenditure which may be prescribed. Next one is the 19 point is the agreement of for evidence of double taxation and prevention of fiscal evasion. The federal government may enter in the tax treaty and tax information exchange agreement, multilateral convention, and the intergovernment agreement or similar agreement or mechanism for the avoidance of double taxation or for the exchange of information for the prevention of fiscal evasion, evidence of tax including automatic exchange for information with respect to tax on income imposed under the ordinance and any other law for the time being in force and under the corresponding law in force in that country may be by notification in the official gazette make such provision may be necessary for implementing to set the instrument and the ये कुछ एग्रीमेंट थे जो अवॉइडेंस एंड डबल टैक्सेशन हमने पहले ही पढ़ा था उसके बारे में. नेक्स्ट है कि नॉट बीन स्टैंडिंग एनीथिंग कंटेन एनी अदर लॉ ऑफ कंट्री अ बोर्ड शैल हैव द पावर टू ऑब्टेन अ collected information with solidated any other country under a tax treaty or tax information exchange agreement and multilateral convention and intergovernmental agreement similar agreement arrangement of or mechanism. Next one is the notwithstanding the provision of the freedom of information ordinance 2002 any other information received and supplied and any communication or correspondence made any under a tax treaty, a tax information exchange agreement, multilateral convention, a similar agreement and mechanism shall be confidential. Next one, where any agreement is made in ordinance with the agreement and the provision made by notification for implementation agreement shall be notwithstanding anything contained in any law for the time begin in force effect in so far as they provide for at least one of the following. Number one, relief for the tax payable under the ordinance. Number two, the determination of Pakistan source income of non-resident person. Number three, where all the operation of the business are not carried on within Pakistan, the determination of income within or outside Pakistan or income chargeable to tax in Pakistan in the hand of non-resident person, including their agent, branches, and the permanent establishment in Pakistan. Fourth point is the determination of income to attribute by any resident person has special relationship with non-resident person. And last one is the exchange of information of the prevention of fiscal evasion and avoidance of tax on income chargeable under the ordinance and under the corresponding law in force in the other country. Next one is the transaction between associate. The Commissioner may, in the respect of any transaction between persons who are associated, distribute a portion or allocate income and deduction or tax credit between the person is necessary to reflect the income that the person will be released in an arm's length transaction. In making any above adjustment, the Commissioner may determine the source of income and the nature of any payment or loss as revenue, capital, and otherwise. Every taxpayer who has entered in the transaction will be associate shall maintain a master file or a local file containing document and information as prescribed. Keep and maintain prescribed country by country report with the applicable. A taxpayer who enter into the transaction with its associate shall finish within 30 days the document and the information to be kept and maintained as above if required by the Commissioner in the course of any proceeding under this ordinance. Next one is the recharacterize of income and deduction. For the purpose of determining liabilities of tax under this ordinance, the Commissioner may recharacterize an transaction or an element of transaction that was entered into as part of tax evidence scheme. Disregard transaction that does not have substantial economic effort, or the recharacterized a transaction where the form of transaction does not reflect the substance. Next one is the liability in the respect of certain security transaction, where the owner of any security disposes for the security and thereafter reacquired the security, and the result of the transaction is that any income payable in the respect of security is received by a person that other than the owner. The income shall be treated for all purpose of ordinance in the income of the other and not for the other person. Security includes bonds, certificates, स्टॉक्स एंड शेयर्स. यहाँ पे हमारा चैप्टर नंबर 6 कंप्लीट हो गया. नेक्स्ट क्लास में इंशाल्लाह चैप्टर 7 स्टार्ट करेंगे. थैंक यू.